Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today I'm doing part 2 of my palette collection. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll link that video for you. That's where I shared all of the palettes that I have stored on my vanity that are more of my go-to day-to-day palettes. I have an insane amount of palettes. I'm not going to give the disclaimer again. If you don't want to see somebody with a lot of palettes, don't watch this video. Trust me, there's a lot. After I posted my beauty room tour, a lot of people requested to see collection videos, and specifically a palette collection was really highly requested. So we're gonna go through the second round of my palettes, which are the ones that I store in my Alex drawers. So if you haven't seen my room tour, I'll link that one. Go and check that out too. And let's get into these palettes. I just wanna give you a quick side note. I'm not gonna be swatching all of these because it would take way too long. So if there's anything that you want to see swatches of or you want to see makeup looks with, just leave a comment below and I'll try my best to make that happen for you. Let's start with one of the OG palettes from my collection. This is the Urban Decay Naked 3. It is the only Naked palette that I own, which I know sounds crazy because the Naked palettes are like the thing for beauty bloggers to have, but this is the only one I have. I love it. I got it when it released and I was so excited to get my hands on it. I love rose gold and this just makes my heart skip a beat. I have two palettes from Gorgeous Cosmetics. One is an eyeshadow palette and one is a face palette. I did a whole video using these, so if you're interested in more about Gorgeous Cosmetics, then go check out that video. I have two limited edition palettes from Too Faced. You guys know, I love Too Faced. And these are the Funfetti palette and the Chocolate Shop palette from the Christmas in New York collection that launched for this past holiday season. And look how pretty the packaging is. I love these. As a self-confessed Too Faced hoarder, I definitely acknowledge that some of the limited edition palettes, particularly the holiday ones, are not really quality-wise as great as the permanent items. I totally get that. As a collector, I still love them. I still hoard them, so what you gonna do? Next up, I have this Smashbox face palette. It's called the LA Lights Contour Blush and Highlight Palette. It has, I'll try not to blind you. It has 9 shades. I do think that this was a good value. However, this isn't really catering to a lot of skin tones, but this is still a good palette. I really like the large mirror, but probably not the most travel-friendly thing in the world. This is the first limited edition item that I ever purchased, and definitely the first makeup item that I got excited about the release. And I was living in Hawaii at the time, so I had to wake up early to get online because of the time difference. It's the Jaclyn Hill Favorites palette from Morphe. I love Jaclyn Hill. I'm a huge fan of hers. I always have been, and I had to get my hands on her palette. I'm now scared to use this. I used it a lot when I first got it, and now I don't want to use it up. I know that sounds super lame, but that's how I feel about a lot of my limited edition stuff, so it's just the way it goes. Next up, I have this magnetic palette that I bought from Etsy. If I can find the Etsy shop that I got this from, I'll link it for you. I really like this palette. It's well made, it's handmade, and it houses a lot of my depotted drugstore stuff. So a bunch of Wet n Wild shadows, a Physicians Formula shimmer strip, a bunch of blushes and all different kinds. There's a Sephora blush in there too. This has saved me so much space from depotting all of these items, and they're things that I like and I didn't want to get rid of, but they were just in their compacts taking up too much space. So I really like this palette. It's really sturdy and well made. I have two palettes from the Balm Cosmetics. One is In the Balm of Your Hand Volume 1, and the other is the Balm Appetit. I just got this really recently, and these are the only two palettes that I have from them. I've thought about purchasing other things, so if you're a fan of any of the Balm palettes, leave a comment and let me know because I'm enjoying these and I'd like to expand my Balm collection. In part 1 of my palette collection, I showed most of my LORAC palettes. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of LORAC Cosmetics, particularly their eyeshadows. I do have 3 more palettes from them. They're just newer to my collection, so there was no space left on my vanity for them. So I do have 3 more LORAC palettes to show you. First is the LORAC Unzipped palette. This is a beautiful neutral palette. It has the nice slim cardboard packaging, just like the other LORAC palettes. This is a highly underrated palette. The other 2 LORAC palettes that I have in my Alex drawers are from their most recent holiday releases. The first is the Cheek palette. It's called Cue the Confetti. This palette also came with a really pretty rose gold brush. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I'm obsessed with everything rose gold, particularly brushes. So that really sold it for me, but I do enjoy this palette as well. The last LORAC palette that I'm going to talk about is another holiday release. It's called the Dance Till Dawn palette. It has eyeshadows and blushes. I was a little skeptical about this one. It was on sale after the holidays and I just picked it up because I thought it was pretty and I love LORAC palettes, and I was really blown away by the pigmentation in here. So if this is still available at Ulta, this is definitely worth picking up. I have 2 more Morphe palettes to show you. The first is the 12 NB palette. I really like the size of these palettes compared to the larger Morphe palettes, and this one just has some really pretty warm tones, mix of mattes and shimmers. Like I've said in previous videos, I'm not affiliated with Morphe. I'm just somebody like you that likes to watch YouTubers, so I end up hearing about Morphe all the time. And of course, I have the Morphe X Kathleen Lights palette. I do have a whole video with swatches, reviews, and an eyeshadow look with this, so if you're interested, I'll link that for you, and you can go check out more about my thoughts about this palette. I have an eyeshadow palette from Chi Chi Cosmetics that my friend Shuana sent me from Australia. It has some really beautiful warm tones. These are just like right up my alley. I really love this palette. Next is the Nude Rose palette from BH Cosmetics. I haven't played with this one too much. They did send this to me to review. So far it's just been kind of so-so for me, which is why I haven't really talked about it that much, but it's pretty packaging. We're getting into a few face palettes now. This one's from Cargo Cosmetics. It's the Picture Perfect Illuminating palette. I like the way that this opens. I know that's probably not exciting. It does have 3 highlighting shades, and this is just a nice little palette. I like it. Now a really reflective palette that looks all smudged and is going to blind you. This is from Clarins. It's their contouring palette. It has a contour, highlight, and blush. I really like these. I haven't played with them too much, but I am a fan of these powders, and particularly the blush. It's really beautiful. I have the much loved Sleek Solstice palette. I ordered mine from Amazon. If I can find it online for you, I'll link it for you. This is kind of hard to get your hands on in the States, but it has a really beautiful range of cream and powder highlighters. I have 3 of the e.l.f. face palettes. The ones that I have are the Illuminating, Contour, and Light Blush palettes. And I have a video showing you how I arrange my palettes, so if that video is already up, then I'll link that for you as well, and you can check out how you can customize your e.l.f. palettes. I don't know if this really counts as a palette. It's this big, like, baked trio from Laura Geller. I store it with my palettes because it's so large it doesn't actually fit in my acrylic organizers, but it has, this is actually a bronzer, a highlighter, and a blush. And Emily Noel made me buy this, and I love it. So I don't know if this counts as a palette, but it lives with my palette, so I'm gonna show it to you anyway. I have one more little mini MAC palette that I did not share in part 1 because it is brand new to my collection. As you can see, I haven't even swatched it yet. I did just dig my nail into it because that's what you have to do with new palettes. This is the Glamorize Me palette, and it's part of their Artist collection with Diane Kendall. I have 2 palettes from Pure Cosmetics. The first is this little eyeshadow palette. It's called the Revolution palette. I did a first impression with it, so if you're interested, you can go and check that out. I also have this Elevation Face Palette, which as you can see is still in the packaging. I haven't even tried it yet, so I can't give you an opinion on this one. I have two eyeshadow palettes from Givenchy Beauty. I did film a first impression with these, so I'm not going to swatch them or talk about them or anything like that. You can just go check out that video and see how these super pricey palettes worked out for me. Spoiler alert, they're not worth it. I have two little kind of random small eyeshadow palettes. The first is from NARS. This was a limited edition collection from a few years ago, and this is the Ride Up to the Moon palette. These two shades in the middle just like drew me in. I love this one. As you can see, I have gone hard with this shade right here. And I have a Naked Basics palette from Urban Decay. I won't show this one to you. You've probably seen this a million times, but this is such a great little companion palette. If you're looking for some neutral shades, check out these little Naked Basics palettes. Okay, we're almost done, I promise. I just have some Tarte palettes and some BECCA palettes to get through, and then we will have seen my entire palette collection. I have the Tartelette Tease eyeshadow palette, and I was not really a huge fan of this palette. I know a lot of people love the Tartelette palettes. I tried this one, I didn't like it, and now that I have the Maneater palette, which I am absolutely in love with, it's kind of changed my perspective on Tarte eyeshadows. I still don't reach for this particular one much, but Tarte, I'm coming back for you. I'm coming for your eyeshadows. However, the Tartelette Tease wasn't really my favorite. Next, I have this little very shiny face palette from Tarte. This is brand new to my collection. I haven't even tried it at all yet. It has a contour and a highlight shade. They look super pretty. They have gigantic pans. I really like the packaging. I like the mirror. So I am excited to play with this one, but I haven't tried it yet. The last Tarte palette I have is this Tarteist Blush palette. I am a huge fan of the Tarte blushes. I highly recommend them, and anytime they come out with one of these little blush palettes, it always draws me in because I love their blushes, I love their packaging. I'm a huge fan of this palette. I'm always scared to use it because I don't want to mess it up, but I know that's super silly, but look how pretty it is. I love it. All right. Last up are my BECCA palettes. I am such a sucker for everything BECCA, particularly when they come out with a palette. I just think their packaging is so elegant. I love, love, love their highlighters and their blushes. And of course, they've done a lot of collaborations with Jaclyn Hill, who I've already said previously I'm a huge fan of. So I do have all of the Jaclyn Hill BECCA palettes. This is the first one that came out. It's the original Champagne Glow palette, and it has Pearl, Champagne Pop, and Blushed Copper. I already have a full-size Champagne Pop, so again, this is one that I try to preserve, but I have used all the shades in here, and I love Blushed Copper as like a blush or blush topper on me. I'm a sucker for it. I'm a sucker for it. What can I say? This is the Champagne Face Collection palette, also in collaboration with Jaclyn Hill. It has 2 highlighters and 3 blushes. I love this center blush here. I'm kind of ashamed to admit that I've barely touched this one. I was so obsessed with this when it came out, and then when I finally got it, it was like I was scared to touch it. I have used all of these things, but honestly, this is not like a regular go-to palette for me. But when I'm feeling special, when I'm feeling fancy, I pull this out. Look how beautiful it is. I love it. This is like one of my prized makeup possessions. I know that's probably sounds ridiculous, but I don't care. I don't care. I also ordered the Jaclyn Hill eyeshadow palette when it came out. I know a lot of people returned theirs. I really kept mine as a collector's item. I didn't think it was like the best eyeshadow ever, but I didn't hate it. I wasn't really complaining about it as much as some people were. I know some people got good ones, some people got bad ones. I feel like mine's just kind of in between. I absolutely keep mine as a collector's item. So as far as the shadows themselves go, I'm not like living and dying for it, but as part of my collection, this is absolutely a must-have for me. This is probably my all-time favorite palette that I have from BECCA. It's the Afterglow palette, It has blushes and highlighters. Some of the highlighters I also use as eyeshadows. I think this is probably in like my top favorite palettes ever. I wish this was permanent. If I can find this anywhere online, I'll link it for you. I am such a huge fan of this palette. BECCA, you're not watching. Please make this permanent. We love it. We need it. The people need this palette. Now we've made it to the very last palette in my collection. It's the BECCA Blushed with Light palette. I, again, was a huge fan of this. This just has 3 blushes. I love this palette so much. I bought several of them. I put one in a giveaway. I gifted one to a friend for Christmas. I don't know what to say. I really like BECCA palettes. There's a new one now. I'm really trying to resist buying it, but it has ombre packaging and it's like calling to me. So that's it. Congratulations if you made it this far. You've seen all of my palettes. Please don't judge me. I love palettes. Palettes are definitely my weakness. I love the packaging. I feel so inspired by seeing the shades arranged, and I'm just a palette girl, what can I say? Like I said before, if you want any more in-depth info about any of these palettes, or if you want to see me use any of them in a look, just leave a comment and let me know, and I'll try to make it happen for you. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Ridiculous. Your hair's not gonna look good, so don't bother trying to fix it. It's just, this is how it looks. It's fine. And and I just did anyway. Great. Video. Brush, not blush. Just really like the brush. Cause I'm crazy. It was bound to happen. Wait, what is this called? Enjoy them. Okay. It's the way it is. You like whatever I want. Oh. Okay, safe. That was terrible. That's just